a big
Dude,
it's Memorial
you
Day.
just knocked over the camera.
No, I didn't. You're goofy.
Jack comes in with the save.
I'll fix it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Is it just Waverly?
Yeah.
Is your mom good?
Yeah.
Cool, then you're here.
I'm here.
Heck yeah.
So, it is Memorial Day weekend. Does anybody know what Memorial Day is?
Nope. It's Memorial Day.
Memories.
Isn't it something for like family?
Nice try.
We give to people who are in need. Well,
No.
last I remembered it, someone said it was because of the tornadoes. I think that was just for the summer.
Also,
The tornadoes happened on Memorial Day.
Oh, geez, that's
Okay.
sucks.
Yeah.
Anybody else have an idea of what Memorial Day is? Jack,
Remembering the dead soldiers
remembering the dead soldiers.
that gave their life for this country.
Okay, listen up. You said it gets me out of school. Is that what you said?
I'm already out of school. I was out of school like
Listen up. On a serious note, Memorial Day is, one that needs to be honored and needs to be remembered. The reason being is because it is remembering those that gave their lives in service of this country. They are to be remembered. If you've ever gone to Washington, D.C. on any of your trips with school, one of the places that they could possibly take you is the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And what that is there is a soldier standing guard, even at this very moment. Back and forth he paces and walks and protects that tomb for all of those who were killed in battle that they could not identify them. They can't identify the body. They were either lost, captured, POWs, etc. And so on an actual solemn note, we want to be respectful for those who are in our military, those who have had family who have lost their lives in service of our country. It is to be remembered. It's to be honored. If you guys understand, about honor, about respect, which I think you do, then you know that this country wasn't just given to us. And over the years, there have been many people who have died in service of our country. And so when someone asks you about Memorial Day, or if you hear someone joking about Memorial Day, that's your opportunity to step up and say, hey, this is actually a really, really important holiday. Okay. Cool. We're going to open in prayer, and then we are going to start our service. We are continuing on. We are on the wandering of the children of Israel through the desert looking for the promised land. What's up, Brayden?
this is after all the plagues, right?
This is after the plagues. Yep. But it is the same guy, Moses. We'll do a little track through the Bible.
Have they already gotten to the part where they split the Red Sea?
So yeah, that was past that.
That was 2 weeks ago. Oh yeah.
2 weeks.
You were here for that, weren't you?
What was last week?
Yeah, you once.
Jackson, why don't you open us in prayer?
What?
Go ahead, open us in prayer.
Alright.
After you take a big old
Big old bite of slurred in.
Yeah, hold on. Okay. God, just thank you for this day. Help us have a good rest of this day. Keep us safe. Help us have a good service. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jackson. All right, so little recap. We were talking about from the beginning. The Lord made heaven and earth, and we started through the Bible. Remember, we're going through the story as a comprehensive narrative. So everything from the beginning until now has all flowed together. Okay, Adam and Eve, 2 sons, Cain and Abel. They grew up. Cain killed Abel, right? Continued on, and then there was the story of Abraham, right? And
I heard he had many sons.
he did. But one son in particular, he had when he was 100 years old, and his wife was 90. Does anybody know the name of that young man? Not Ishmael. Isaac. Yes. Well, Ishmael is the other one. I have another couple. Point being, yes, Isaac. And Isaac, when he grew up a little bit more, God asked Abraham to do what? Kill, sacrifice Isaac, right? And they talked about how obedience was something that was, really stressed. And he's like, oh my gosh, you're asking me to kill my first son, the one I've waited for years and years, the promise that you gave me. And he came to the point where he almost drew the knife to kill his son, and the Lord stopped him, provided a ram, right, for the the sacrifice. Isaac grew up, and Isaac had sons. Yes. Does anybody know one of the sons that he loved more than any other? Coat of many colors. Nope, not
Joseph.
Joseph. There you go. Joseph, coat of many colors, and he had lots of brothers. He had 12 of them, actually. And those brothers hated him, right?
Sold him into slavery.
And they sold him into slavery.
He was almost dead.
And he almost died, right? And he went to Egypt. And he was named second in command at Egypt. And what else happened while he was there? Who tried to seduce Joseph?
The emperor's wife.
Potiphar's wife. Excellent. And then he got thrown in jail, right? For something he didn't even do. He stayed there for years. But he remained faithful to God, and God remained faithful to him. He was brought out of the prison, right? And saved his entire family because of it. Fantastic. Continuing on, Joseph had sons. Now we're trying to continue on. Time passed in Egypt, and the Israelites became to increase in number. But unfortunately, during that time, the Egyptians were now scared of the Israelites. And so the Pharaoh ordered that every male boy be killed, right? And so that's where we come to Moses. Moses was saved by his mom, right? And then was put in the basket, was raised by the princess, Pharaoh's daughter, in the house of Pharaoh, right? And so, stop cracking eggs on these, right? All right, so Moses grew up in the house of Pharaoh, became an Egyptian, but knew that the Lord was calling him to deliver his people, the Israelites. One day he saw an Egyptian beating an Israelite, and he killed the Egyptian. Fearful for his life, he ran away to Midian, found a wife, became a shepherd, and had an encounter with a strange bush. And what was going on with the bush? It was
on fire.
On fire. But it wasn't burning up, right? And the Lord spoke to him through the bush and told him,
I am the Lord.
I am
The Lord.
that I am. Yeah, the Lord. And he said, I want you to go back to Egypt. Deliver my people, and I will be with you, right? Moses is like, no way, Jose. I can't do that. You're crazy. He's like, you got a staff there, don't you? He says, I sure do. He said, throw it on the ground. Boom, it became a snake. And then he picked up the snake and it became a staff again. And he's like, in the same way, I will do many wonders here. Through you. He's like, okay. Goes back to Egypt, tells Pharaoh, hey, let my people go. He tells him over and over and over. The Pharaoh says, never. Never. And so the plagues happened. The 10 plagues, right? Which included but not excluded to hails, darkness, frogs, boils, sores, locusts, gnats,
Blood. Blood and water.
famine, blood in the water, and then, of course, the death of the firstborn son, which was the death of Pharaoh's son. And at that point, Pharaoh said, get out of here, leave, be gone. And then Pharaoh changed his mind again and chased after them, which was the parting of the Red Sea, which Moses struck the Red Sea with the staff. Ocean split open, and they walked across, it says, on dry ground, which is fantastic. It's the coolest thing ever. I love the details that they put in there. And so as they got across the water, the Lord swallowed up the Egyptians by closing the Red Sea back on top of them, and Pharaoh was destroyed. Now, they're in the desert, right? We're walking. We're heading towards the promised land. But there seems to be a problem. Somebody tell me what the problem is. Unfaithful, what else?
I thought he said Bigfoot.
No.
They're wanting to go back.
What?
Stop.
Who's wanting to stop?
The Israelites.
Why?
There's one simple hearing
There's
hack.
one simple hearing hack that you guys should know about real quick. It's not that. It's called Open Your Ears. We have chapter 6. Here's where we're picking up. Go! Pay attention.
As the Israelites journeyed through the desert, they began to complain. They were tired of eating manna and wanted meat like they had when they were slaves in Egypt. Frustrated by their complaining, God gave the Israelites exactly what they wanted. A huge wind blew an enormous flock of quail right into their camp. They had so much quail, they ate it for every meal for a month. It was literally coming out of their nostrils. Not long after this, the Israelites continued their journey toward the Promised Land. They came to the outskirts of a city called Canaan. Moses sent spies ahead to see if the city was a good place to live and how tough the battle might be to take it over. The spies came back and told him the land was amazing, flowing with milk and honey and all kinds of fruit. But the people living there were huge, like giants, and that it would be impossible to defeat them. But two of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, told the Israelite leaders they should go into Canaan because God was on their side. The leaders refused, becoming so angry at Joshua and Caleb that they almost executed them. Because the Israelites didn't believe that God would help them, God sent them to wander in the desert for 40 years. In the desert, the Israelites were having trouble finding water and began to complain. So God told Moses to speak to a rock and water would flow from it. Moses trusted God, but only partly. He not only spoke to the rock, but struck it with his walking stick. When he did, water gushed from the rock. God wasn't happy with Moses' lack of trust and punished him by allowing him to see the Promised Land, but not enter it. Moses was getting pretty old and looked for someone to take over for him as leader. He chose Joshua. Just before he died, Moses stood before the entire nation of Israel and told them the story of how God had promised land to Abraham, freed them from slavery in Egypt, and had even given them commands to live by as God's special people. When he finished, Moses climbed a nearby mountain. God showed him all of the Promised Land, and Moses died.
So, a lot to unpack here with the story. But the first thing that we notice is that the Promised Land was before them. They were walking towards it, and they were complaining. A common theme that was brought up by the Israelites, which unfortunately is a common theme that we see today, don't we? And I'm not talking just about you guys as teenagers who, have the attention span of goldfish, but I'm talking about adults as well. You find that people in our culture complain about everything. Literally everything. Oh, this light's been red for 3 seconds longer than it should be. I can't believe that eggs are $8 a carton, which is actually ridiculous. But I digress. I'm just saying, people have reasons to complain, or people make reasons to complain about everything. The Israelites were going through the desert. Say that again. The Israelites were going through the desert. Okay, one more time. The Israelites were going through the desert. You guys know what the desert is?
Yeah.
Dry.
No water.
No water, no life, no nothing. Just pretty much the barren wasteland of the world, right? So they're going through the desert and they have an unlimited supply of manna. Bread. So, first off, they're not starving. They're actually going through the desert. They're not starving. It doesn't say that they were ever short on water until the end of that journey, and that was after they complained to God. So they're going through the desert as a caravan, and they're like, man, I want some meat. I want bacon like JJ's shirt. We were fed better as slaves in Egypt. They were complaining so much, understand me this, they were saying that they would rather go back to be slaves in Egypt because at least then they got a good meal. And so the Lord was like, oh, really? Is that how you want it to be? Sure, I'll give you guys quail. And you're going to have so much quail, you're going to eat quail every single day. For breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Quail.
For
I love
breakfast?
quail.
It says at every meal.
I mean, quail egg.
That means you get quail cereal, quail sandwich for lunch, and roast quail for dinner.
Wait,
Mm.
meat cereal.
Look, man,
That
I
is
don't make the narrative.
disgusting.
I'm
I
just
got
saying.
no milk.
It says they had quail for every meal.
They didn't even have cereal back then.
If you go on a mission
That
trip
just sucks.
to the Dominican or other places like that, you will have beans and rice at every meal.
Mm.
Oh yeah, we woke up and every morning at breakfast we would have beans of some kind every single meal. Breakfast, you'd wake up and have beans and rice every day.
I feel bad for the boys' cabin.
I'm just saying, dude.
Oh.
And the thing is, some kids that lived in the orphanages that we worked at, they would get one meal a day. You know what it was?
Beans and rice.
Beans and rice. If they were lucky, they had chicken or some kind of protein with it. And it was shared between the entire group. Y'all have no idea how good you have it. Do you? You know how good you got it? Because you get snacks. They ain't got no snacks over there, alright? The Israelites certainly did not have snackage in the desert.
They ain't got no Doritos.
But here's the thing, God always provided for them. There's a difference between wants and needs. You probably hear it a lot from your parents. Well, that may be something you want, but it's not something you need. Tell me something you need.
Air.
A house.
Air. What? A house?
Water.
Shelter.
Water. Shelter. Okay. Food.
Energy.
Certainly.
Protein.
Sleep.
A brain.
Okay.
Blood.
Tell me something that you
Clothes.
would want.
New bike.
Well, I
Wait, suppose a need or a want?
need.
A need.
PS5.
A bike.
A bite.
A
PS5.
Okay.
Yes.
Taylor
Taylor
Swift.
Swift
Good luck with
tickets.
that.
A 1969 Camaro Super Sport.
69 Camaro Super Sport from a kid who does not have his temps.
Oh.
Gavin, what do you want? Your name Gavin?
Yeah.
I want my name to be Gavin.
What is it, Stacy?
A heater for my pool.
A million, a trillion.
It's like $3,000.
Gazillion.
It's a want.
It is a
Grand.
want.
I
Now,
get a zillion bucks.
here's the thing. There will be times, we're going to transition this back. There will be times where you will come to God in the midst of your desert. God, why do I not have Taylor Swift tickets? All of my friends have Taylor Swift tickets and I don't.
How is that even
I thought you
possible?
loved me, God. Now you laugh, but at the same time, you know that some of you are like, man, God really loved me. But at the same time, God says in the scriptures, I will provide every need according to his riches and glory. Not every want, not every desire, every need.
What?
Okay? So does that mean you're going to live a lavish life of luxury all the days of your life? No. But if you trust in the Lord, that means he will always provide for you. Even when they were complaining, he took care of them. Is there a food that you could eat every meal for a month?
Yes.
There
Macaroni
is?
and cheese.
Cereal, okay. Bacon?
Macaroni and cheese. That stuff is.
The pizza at school, I had it every day for an entire school year.
How?
Wow, that's impressive.
Oh, that is good.
Both every day. Watermelon every day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a month. Brandon?
Macaroni and cheese.
Macaroni and cheese. Very bad. What would you eat? Peanut butter? Oh man. But peanut butter every meal?
And
I
just
mean,
peanut butter?
It works. I mean, it works.
Wait, do we get a choice of a drink?
Okay.
Root beer.
Bro, yeah, let's go.
Alright. So the promised land, okay? They finally arrived. They got to the place that God had promised for them, okay? You have to think, they've been wandering in the desert already for a while. Not 40 years, but they've made quite a journey from the Red Sea. And they finally came to the land of Canaan, right? And they talked about how amazing the land was. The spies came back, and it was everything they had promised and more. Flowing with milk and honey. In Numbers chapter 13:23, it said, And they came to the brook of Eshcol and cut down from thence a branch with one cluster of grapes. And they bare it between two upon a stack. They brought of the pomegranates and of the figs. That means, you guys ever seen a cluster of grapes you can hold up with your hands?
Yeah.
They cut a cluster, tied it to a staff, and carried it between two full-grown men.
That's a big lot of grapes.
That's a
Dude, I'm saying these grapes have to be massive. Like, is that even possible?
Or they're just really big.
Maybe.
That's
Juicy
probably one.
grape.
Or is it just this super long vine of just grapes at like
Probably
6 feet tall?
one grape is probably that big.
You have no idea. But all I know is we don't have things that grow like that around here. But this was amazing. The land was everything God had promised to them. But they were giants. They were afraid. They inspected the land. They spied on this land for 40 days, it says. And after
That's why the
all
grapes
that,
are so big.
they brought back the report. And the only two people that said, hey, let's do it, were Joshua and Caleb. 2 people.
Did they really go down there anyways?
No.
Why?
Because they were almost
scared.
killed.
They got outvoted.
They were terrified.
Here's the thing, yeah. So all of the spies went down there, and everybody agreed this land was amazing. This is the best thing ever. And then they thought, well, we can't possibly take this land. The people living there are giants. We would never be able to defeat them. We're just a bunch of people. But Joshua and Caleb said, there's one big difference between what you guys are thinking right now in the physical and what really, who's going with us? God. They said, God is going to be on our side. What? Did you not see what he just did to the Egyptians? Brought you out of slavery? Parted a sea, for crying out loud? And so that got me thinking, I can't hang on with him. But it got me thinking, like, how often do we forget what God has done in our lives? Think about it. I'm going to give you guys a story. I want you to pay attention, okay? Growing up, my family did not have a lot of stuff. My dad was a pastor, and that was his only job. My mom didn't work at the time. I was in about 10th grade, and my dad brought home about $450 a week for a family of 4. We lived in a trailer, and I had bologna sandwiches and ramen noodles almost daily.
That's nice.
Isn't it?
This stuff is
I would
good.
like to have full on.
Wait, what kind of ramen noodles? Were they in the packets or were they in the cups?
Look, kid, we're talking the 20-cent ramen noodles, all right?
Oh.
Here was life, okay? Life was, if I had a bologna sandwich one day, I would have bologna quesadillas the next day.
Ooh, that stuff
yes.
is
Because you
good.
take the bologna and you put it on the tortilla and you fry it, changes everything, right?
Because it's so good.
Yes.
So, but we always had food, right? There were days I was like, if I smell bologna one more time, I would rather starve. There were days where if it was Sunday night, Mom wasn't cooking. You'd fend for yourself. You find something else.
DIY.
You either find something in the
Find the
cabinet,
crabs.
maybe a bowl of cereal night and Sunday night, and you figure it out. I was blessed because my parents at no time ever complained to us, ever. It was always a, hey, we got food in this house. We live in a house. When I got my phone, I had to pay for my phone. I didn't get my car until like senior year of high school is when I finally got my car. I had Stacy driving me around. Okay?
And I took up all those minutes.
It's true. She took up every text message minute I had back when I had to buy a text message. It was terrible. It was bad. I had a Nokia brick phone because that's all I could buy.
A Nokia.
Okay?
I mean, it won't break. There you go.
I threw it across my gymnasium in high school. Didn't break. Bless the Lord.
But all his friends had iPhones.
That's right.
They were
I mean, I don't know. I suppose it wasn't really out.
Yeah, it was like our senior year.
You could just,
Or
you
did
could
they
just
have
brag
one of
that
them?
I
Didn't
know
have
it
it, didn't
doesn't
care.
break.
I got a cool Razor flip phone later, and it was awesome. It had a school camera. All right. Listen. The best part about it is I was always taken care of. And I looked at my high school, and I looked at the kids that were at my high school, and I saw some that were very well off. Okay, some kids they were just always taken care of. But then I saw other kids who wore the same outfit to school every single day. Okay? Who literally the only lunch that they would get would be the lunch that the school provided for them because they couldn't pay for it. That kid got picked on every single day for one thing or another. It was totally outside of his control. When I looked at myself, I had no reason to complain. The Israelites here had an opportunity to walk into a land that God had promised for them. And they were too scared to do it because they weren't trusting in the God who had already provided for them. They were so scared about the unknown, about the whys, about the maybes, the hows, the things that were so far beyond their control that they wouldn't even choose to say, I'm going to trust God. You understand? And because of that, because of the fear of this uninhabitable land, they did not attempt to go into Canaan. No matter what Joshua and Caleb said, they said it's impossible. And if you guys don't shut up, we're killing you. So now Joshua and Caleb were like, what do we say? Moses, they're not listening. Moses said, all right. I wonder what would have happened if they had actually just believed. Walked forward into the unknown. There are giants in your guys' lives. There are things, not people per se, but circumstances that are so far beyond what you think is able to be accomplished because you look at yourself and you look at the situation, you're like, there's no way. I can look at each of you individually and I can talk specifically to your lives about things that we've talked about, things that are just, this will never take place because of X, Y, Z, whatever. Adults included. There are still parents that have never achieved their lifelong goals since they were a kid because they're afraid of what could potentially take place. So what happens? They wander. They wander in the land for 40 years, guys. 40 years. The reason that they did 40 years is because 40 years, by the age of which everybody was almost a complete generation. So the generation that did not have faith died. And a new generation can now take the land. The successor of Moses was Joshua, because he was one of the two spies that said, I believe. And the Lord said, those are the kind of people I want leading. How many of you guys in here are in middle school? Raise your hands. Middle schoolers. You will be. I'd raise your hand. You're in. 2 high schoolers, the rest middle school. Right. You're going to be high school, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we look over, we got Dalton, we got Ella. All the boys are going to be 8th graders, right? A majority of this youth group in itself is middle school. So a majority of you probably think, oh, I could never do that, Pastor Will. Don't sell yourselves short, or else you'll end up going years missing out on what God could be doing in your lives right now. All this wondering made them complain more and more and more. Do you guys complain when things seem to be standing still? You ever waited in a line at Kings Island? You guys went to Kings Island, right? Not too long ago?
Didn't see a single one of you.
You didn't see it?
I mean, I didn't go super long.
Here's the thing, if you go to Kings Island, they always make you wait in line to get on the ride, right? Because everybody wants to ride. Right?
Yeah.
Some lines, though, are long. You wait like
2
an
hours.
hour.
Yeah, like waiting
Three.
for boot
I think-
blasters when it's 98 degrees outside.
I think the longest line I ever waited in.
3 hours.
No. This was Top Thrill Dragster at Cedar Point, and I waited in that line with Josh Kramer for almost 4 hours.
They closed that down.
Yep.
'Cause
The ride broke twice while we were waiting in line. They
That would
had
make
two
me
different
not wanna get on
crews.
it.
So worth it.
What if
Oh.
what did they break, or did they just get stuck?
No, they didn't get stuck up there. The launcher wouldn't launch or anything like that. And they're like,
Yeah.
there was a point where they were saying, we don't know if this ride will get fixed in time. You can wait in line or you can leave. And there were people that were just leaving. And Josh and I are like, are we
Sweet,
committed
we're
to
closing.
this? And Josh was like, if I don't ride another ride, I'm riding this ride. And I'm like, I'm in. And so we did. And we waited and waited. There was nobody to talk to. And so we're just talking to each other, just like, dude, I wonder when this ride's gonna be run. And it's hot. And Stacy was there, and Stacy was doing nothing except waiting, and she wasn't even gonna ride the ride.
So I waited by myself, and they almost did ride another ride.
Yeah.
Poor Stacy.
What?
Why did they close it down? I forgot.
Trust me,
Because
there's
it
more
was
to
probably
it.
like too much to
Probably
fix
kept
it.
getting broke.
How long did the ride last? Was it long?
The ride lasted
30
like
seconds.
14 seconds.
That's it.
Yeah, because what it does, they launch you and you go up it, and then you go.
It was one of the best 14 seconds of my life, and I'll always remember it.
Go back
You
down.
hopefully go back there.
I've seen it when it comes back out backwards.
We were in line for the September's, and we were in line for like an hour or something, and then they had a delay,
Mhm.
so then everyone started leaving the line.
Mhm.
So we got out of line and got something to eat, and then we came back in, and like we waited for another 45 minutes or something, and then the ride finally opened back up.
But was it worth it?
She wants to say no.
So you can say no.
No.
No, good. Hey, this is equally important. Listen, there will be things that you wait on in life, and you're like, it's gonna be worth it, it's gonna be worth it, it's gonna be worth it, and then it's a total letdown, and you're like, ah! Why did I wait this long? But there will be other times where you're like, I'm gonna stick it out. And you would have never experienced how great it was if you didn't. It comes down to your commitment. Everybody complains when things are staying still, but everybody loves it when things are moving. When life's happening and things are going right, ain't nothing to complain about. It's when life gets hard and life stops that everybody's like, does God even care? You know, I'm a firm believer that sometimes God puts you on pause. Hear this. I think God stops you sometimes and just says, just wait. Why? You'll understand soon enough. Just wait. Waiting is so frustratingly hard, guys. Sometimes you're waiting because of decisions that were made that you are like, man, if only I had done the other thing, I could have been in the promised land by now, but instead, I'm wandering. And God's like, I want you to just enjoy the desert for a minute. I want you to think about what you're doing, where you want to be, and how we're going to get there. Your life, but it's like it isn't moving anywhere. The Lord will test you in multiple ways, and one of his ways he will be testing you is by your patience. In the desert, they waited and they waited and they waited. And even Moses himself got tired of waiting. Because the Lord gave him an instruction to speak to the rock, water would come from it, and he only partially obeyed. He also struck the rock. And because of that, there was consequences for his actions. He wasn't even allowed to go into the promised land. Moses, the same guy that the Lord called to go deliver the people from Israel, to split the Red Sea, to walk in the desert for 40 years, does not get to enter into the promised land. I read that story, I'm telling you this. I was like, that is so wrong. Moses got gypped, man. But you think someone who stayed with the Lord for that many years, don't you think he would understand about obedience? Some of you are still new to this whole Christianity thing. Some of you are still learning about God. I'll say this. There are times when I do something stupid and God lets me know, boy, that was stupid. And it's because I know better. Your parents will tell you to do something. You know what they're saying. You may not do it exactly the way you know they want it done. Stupid. Reason being, because you know exactly what they were saying. Moses knew what God was saying. He didn't have the patience. Are you willing to trust God through the waiting seasons? Are you willing to say, God, this isn't my favorite portion right now in life. Certainly wasn't for the Israelites. I'm tired of waiting. I'm going to trust you in the waiting. This applies to different things. Sarah, don't be mad. Okay. Sarah has invited her brother over and over and over and over and over and over. Different family members over and over and over and over and over. And it feels like a waiting season sometimes. Don't give up on the waiting season, okay? I say this as an encouragement, because eventually they did go to the promised land. We're going to know about it here in the weeks to come. We're going to study about it. How they triumphed over impossible odds because God was with them. Joshua goes and he leads them around the walls of Jericho just simply by walking around it. The walls collapse. It's an amazing story. I can't wait to tell you guys about it. But are you willing to wait a little longer? Are you willing to trust God through the waiting seasons? Moses made mistakes. Okay? And all of that required him to pick a new successor, which I said was Joshua, right? And Joshua would lead them into the land that God promised them. Reflections here. The last thing that Moses did was remind the people of God's goodness. All right? Moses had an opportunity to look out over all of the Israelites, and he reminded them of where they were brought from. He told them stories of what God did for them, about the miracles he performed and the deliverance from Israel, or from Egypt, excuse me. Sometimes the most important moments are the ones we so quickly forget. We're going to have a moment here where I want you guys to reflect on what the Lord has brought you from. I can speak into your lives. Jackson and Audrina, there's a period of time in your guys' life, not too far in the distance, where you literally lived in a camper.
I remember that.
Where are you at now?
A house.
A house. A very nice one, too.
Yep.
Gavin, there's a period of time where your mom wouldn't have anything to do with God, would she? She got saved, didn't she? It's a testimony to you too, young man. Naomi and Sarah, girls, you got baptized. You're going to be getting baptized. Exciting things happening in your life. Your mom sees your life and how you've chosen to follow Jesus. That's a direct reflection. Austin, in the not so distant past, you had a little run-in with the law. We're not going to get into it. You guys can talk to them later. But God provided, did he not? Consequences, yes. But provision. Provision still, right? Yeah. You can talk to them later. You're a shining example for your brother. You've been through hardship too. Some that most kids in here would never dream to understand. Trust God. He's walking with you. Okay? Braden. Braden probably knows what Braden probably knows what it feels like to be bullied in here more than anybody else. Braden always comes in here with a smile on his face and a joke in his mouth. Every single time.
Yes.
Dunyan ring.
Done it. Your joy speaks volumes, Braden. Look, I can continue. I know I can. There's more. But I want you guys to take some moments here, and I want you to reflect on what God has done for you in your life. Think of the moments where it was so bad you were like, I'm just done. For me, I had moments where I was just done living. And now I look at my life and I see two beautiful girls. I have an amazing wife, good friends, and a youth group that I would literally give anything for. But there was waiting seasons that I had to walk through. Trust God through your waiting seasons. Because He's still walking with you even if you can't feel it. So I'm going to turn on some music here. Just want you guys to just take a time here and there's the song.
Show summer.
But Wayfair
Wayfair's
first.
Memorial Day clearance.
Don't worry about it. Heavenly Father, Lord, I just pray that your students, leaders of life, would have a moment where they would remember your goodness, God. Thank you, Jesus, for your provision in our lives, even when we don't realize it.